Hello, your Bronitas, Alan. It is Brony time, and welcome back to Let's Play Hayseed Night. When we last left off, we met Ina and Illigrab and her very grumpy, mean-ass father, who kind of just got told off. We also met Talid, the guy who has the hots for Ina and is trying to extort them into probably giving up their business to him or something like that. Not sure, I haven't gotten that far to figure that out. But now we are off to look for Ina, and we've run into Gyoff, and he is taking us to look for her, I guess. Gyoff expertly snuck through the crowds, moving with such ease that he seemed to be a little more than a shadow. Adder did his best to keep up with him, though that was hardly an easy task when he was the one head taller than most other deer. The place Gyoff was looking for wasn't in the plaza itself, surrounded by stalls and all their merchandise, but rather one of the many alleys that led to the bazaar. The crowd there was bustling with life as well, but not quite in the same manner. They're all rowdy deer pushing and cheering. A Karnmay alley. Karnmay alleys were very different from the official sort. While killing was still very much frowned upon, there was no chivalry, no one set of rules. There was no way of knowing if the horns you were being gored with were hygienic. There were punches and kicks and all sorts of cheats. It was chaos. And for that and several other reasons, Ina was a huge fan of official Karnmay. Sadly, as much as Adder jumped and pushed and yelled, she wasn't anywhere to be found.
Alas, your fair maiden is in another alley.
Adder cast a long glance over the impoverished battlegrounds, attempting to find her one last time.
That's too bad. Aina kicked some serious ass here.
Good thing she's not allowed to fight.
Yeah, ain't no way they're gonna let it go.
A golem, Adder.
Gyoff cast a very serious look in his direction. This wasn't the first time they'd had this discussion, and it wouldn't be the
How many
last.
times do I gotta tell you? Aina is not a golem, Kay? She's a doe. It's just she's a bit of a weirdo.
Weirdo. Right.
Man, he is in so much denial.
Tell me, Adder dearest, how many albino does can you name off the top of your head that can lift your heavy butt with just one hand?
Aina! Now let's go! We gotta find her!
Why do I even bother?
Yeah, this guy's definitely the narrator. Like, he's this reaction to him is just like, man.
Look at her. Golem or not, she's just a little cabbage head hiding in the crowds of this enormous city. She's damn good at hiding. And do you know why people hide?
'Cause they don't want to be found.
Gyoff extended his arm towards him in a dramatic manner, remarking how correct he was.
You're not gonna find her. So why don't you go and use your thick skull for something useful? Like bringing us money so we can have dinner for once.
Gyoff pointed at the ring with his horns, and Adder knew better than to insist. With a heavy sigh, Adder nodded and began walking towards the ringmaster.
Wait, there's just one more thing. Your bag of coins. You wouldn't want to lose what little we have to the hands of, say, some ill-intentioned crook, now would you?
Better the evil you know, right?
Indeed. Gyoff extended his hand a bit too keenly, waiting for Adder to find the purse he usually hid within his sash.
Whoa,
But
Bard, you're really gonna bust a gut laughing.
Don't tell me you lost it.
Alrighty then.
Gyoff's scrawny body trembled like a branch about to snap off.
Just go. All right. See that sweaty blockhead over there with the glistening fur and a charming smile? That's your foe. I'll go place my bet now. Are you feeling like a winner, ladder?
Charming? Oh, hold up! You mean the guy with them sharpened horns? Oh, darn, Bard. Your confidence in this poorly put together row is much appreciated, but as much as it hurts me, and it does, I think I'd rather go to bed hungry today.
What?
What if he hits me in the face? I don't want to go from Adder the One-Eyed to Adder the No-Eyed!
Then do enlighten me, my boy, on how in the name of the Hatsa do you pretend to become a knight if you can't handle even a rack pointed at you? No wonder you can't even catch a hint, yellow piece of mangy venison. Sorry about that.
What are you mumbling there, Goff?
I said I'm going to walk you through this. So oh help me three if you mess up.
Hey, let this star win. And a girl, you sure eat your veggies. And all the sticks on your forehead, I can't fool anyone.
If he's serious, this is gonna be easier than I thought.
Wait, there's a fight coming up? Holy horns, you have to tell me everything about it. What kind of fighting style did Adder use? Was it antler rattling? He was a rattler, right? Did he prefer grappling or thrusting? Or was he more of a brawler instead? Swish, swish, bam! Pushing them right in the... Wait, did they even have any hand reps his size?
Give me a moment. I think I have to sneeze. What were any of those words? I don't really know the rules of Karnmei. I thought you just had to hit people until they fainted. Oh god, there's nothing I can come up with is going to live up to her expectations. I can't deal with the pressure. Ah! You said you knew the night like the palm of your hand, didn't you? New bearer of the tale of this magnitude should be able to pen a memorable fight scene all on their own. If that's the case, prove you're worthy of your name, then.
Oh my god, you're right! Yes, this is my moment to shine! Leave it to me!
Yes, good. I shall go and leave you to it so as to not influence you.
Let's see, what would the knight do? Right! He needed a few tips first. So Gyoff took Adder aside and held him under his arm. He said, Adder, mine lad, 'tis a dangerous fight that awaits us. But if not in the strength of thy body, I believeth in the strength of thine heart. What would thee saith is the greatest feat a fighter should at each moment striveth for? Well, diggity yee-haw, Bard! What a tootin', rootin', mighty fine question that is. Adder nodded thoughtfully to himself and then continued, I reckon that would be...
Honor!
Honor, as expected of a knight, dearest friend.
Honor!
Be a rattler then. Ah, honorable style amongst honorable styles. The way our ancestors squareth, where two deer shalt proveth the might of their horns rather than that of their mind. But hoy, Bard! Yelped Adder. Mine horns are so teeny tiny. Gyoff smirked. This is where your strength lieth, mine Adder. There is an advantage to short horns, thou see. No one shalt be able to lock their horns around yours to grapple thee to the ground. Your advice is ne'er unwise, Gyoff. This is why I love you so daringly dearly. Adder, you beautiful boar. Everyone will find out if thou keepest talking so loud. We mustn't. Let the whole world bask in the warmth of our passion. Oh, Adder. Smooch, smooch, smoochy smoot.
Lynn, how's that scene going?
It's going.
And found himself alone at his dearest friend, lost to the blurry tides of people surrounding the ring. Veins were starting to pop in his eye, making it even harder to see anything except the stag waiting in front of him. The deer with sharp horns smirked in his drunken haze, clearly looking down on Adder. It wasn't the first time someone pitied him and lived to regret it, as a drunkard would soon learn. The ringmaster looked left and right, making sure that both fighters knew what they were about to get into. He lifted his hand carefully as he stepped back, and then, "Go!" he screamed with the hand of his cop. Charge! There was no time to hesitate. Both the roe and his opponent rushed towards each other head fast, heeding the scream of an ancient instinct that boiled in their bloods. Every voice in the alley fell silent once the deer slammed into each other, horns singing a threatening melody as they rattled fiercely in a never-ending battle of dominance. The tension could be cut with a knife, foreheads pushed against each other, but Goff's advice proved endearing indeed. As much as he tried, the bigger deer could not intertwine his antlers. Now what? The answer was clear, of course. A barrage of swift punches to the other deer's face would have sent his brain bouncing all over his skull. It would have been an obvious choice to anyone with deer-sized hands to any honorless ruffian. Refusing to even consider such silly tactics, our hero decided to take the moral high ground, and the physical too. Tired of the pointless dance, the deer pushed Adder back with a swift head move. Before Adder had a chance to react, the slow slammed his head just below the roe's chest, knocking all the air on it and lifting up right off the ground with ease. Adder flailed at his one free arm and legs most violently, but there was little he could do in such a compromising position, worn out as he was after trying to uphold his honor as a brave warrior with such a direct approach. And crack. I could not tell if that was the sound of Adder's neck or Adder's teeth, as his face hit the ground at full speed, but little did matter, for nothing lay more than broken than his dreams. You're dead. To everyone. After such a shameful defeat, the writer decided to take a page from Adder's book. Lily, she began writing these words as means to stall her own anxiety as she tried to understand how she managed to dig herself into such a narrative hole. She had certainly made a mistake somewhere. It was obvious to her prodigious mind that the boy was so preoccupied with doing what was good and true and right, would hardly be willing to do whatever it took to stand victorious and carve a space for himself in the annals of history. Our wonderful narrator started to realize that perhaps she had misunderstood something about Adder, for she could picture no scenario where a well-meaning, upstanding street fighter could ever get past his first night in Slander District. Omilandiabli of Askedas, true descendant of the night, decided to revisit her decision, thinking more deeply about what kind of priorities her ancestor would have. Victory.
Ah, so thou art a brawler, dearest friend. I have indeed taughteth you well. There is no honor in death. If thine horns will not aid you in battle, use those hands the gods gave you. Pummel them to the ground. Thou shalt win this fight and prevail until the next. But hoy, bard, yelped Adder. Mine hands are so bogglingly big. Yoff smirked. All the better to swat their faces away. If they trieth to thrust towards thee with their large horns, thou shalt only need to slap them into the ground. Stand victorious over those who would hurt you, mine Adder.
And they smooched again, but quietly. Adder found himself alone at last, his dearest friend lost to the blurry tides of people surrounding the ring. Veins were starting to pop in his eye, making it even harder to see anything except the stag waiting in front of him. The deer with a sharp horn smirked in his drunken haze, clearly looking down on Adder. It wasn't the first time someone pitied him and lived to regret it, as the drunkard would soon learn. The ringmaster looked left and right, making sure that both fighters knew what they were about to get into. He lifted his hand carefully as he stepped back, and then, "Go!" he screamed with a hand chop. The towering deer charged towards Adder like a runaway fur, horns lined and ready to slam him into the full force of Makdar's stampede. But the roe didn't move a single muscle. Adder merely waited, silencing all the voices that screamed at him to run and die. He didn't even assume the stepbrother stance, he just waited, closing his eyes, lest the sight of his incoming enemy would betray his nerve. And when the time was right... Thwack! Adder spun on the tip of his hooves and struck his opponent with such force that he swung him straight into the ground. And you may think, wow, that's kind of anticlimactic, but it was everything but for Adder. Everything but. Both the public and the ringmaster tilted their heads as they stared at the man lying on his snout, a bit unsure about the nature of the event they had just witnessed. But what they saw was nothing but the truth. Taking Yoff's advice to heart, Adder obtained a beautiful, simple victory. "Down!" screamed the ringmaster. Adder won the fight and lived to see another day. Wait, so he wins?
Of course he wins. He's the knight, you doof.
Right. Never mind then. Well done, Lynn.
I'm pretty great, yes.
Now, what's this torn page you're trying to hide behind your back? So anyway...
Whoa! I can't believe it! Still alive and kicking! Come on, show me the money, Bard! I want to bite every single coin!
I completely forgot to place the bet.
Yelp covered his face with his hands, making some sort of unintelligible noise that can only be described as the very sound of anguish.
Hey, Big Ed, I want to learn some tips too. I'll buy you dinner.
Hey now, sir! You really think you're gonna steal my manager away, so...
Gal shut Edder's snout
My
with one
dear
hand.
boy, you sure gave it all today, so why don't you go and enjoy what's left of the fair? I have a gig in the tavern later. Money, yes. Don't expect me tonight.
With that, Gялf hurriedly shooed a very confused Adder away. Our protagonist wandered back towards the increasingly empty and silent plaza, unsure of where he was headed next. His victory had been but a brief rush against mediocrity. Now that he was alone, his mind sought the comfort of a familiar place, a seething pit in his chest. No, he had business there. Adder had spent enough nights hungry and alone to learn to eat his emotions for dinner. But still, his stomach protested, demanding to know when their next meal would arrive. He could only walk a little farther to chase those thoughts away. No matter how resilient he was, he would eventually get tired and stagger his way back home. Fall asleep in his little corner, sleepless dream, and wake up to a drunk Gялf crashing in. He'd head off to work and Aina would get him some food. That's right, he held no doubt in his heart that his boss would come back. What had he made such a fuss for? Aina had never missed a single day of work in the whole year he'd been working for her, and anyway, she was way stronger than him. What could he do? He had no reason to say grand words or worry like he did. He never had. The sparse group of citizens and bidders all around him still celebrated this blessed day. Dances, melodies, and pastries, a drifter from down yonder the steps, would never be allowed to take part in. This was just another empty day in the life of Adder, son of Gerfas. An abrupt blast of lucidity made Adder turn his head away from his host at last. His ears perked up, and his fur stood on end as he tried to make sense of the careless trip he'd just taken. The music was deafening all around him, the crowd untraversable. He didn't know how far he'd walk or how he'd managed to make some space for himself, but it was obvious now that he had stumbled into some sort of performance, a stage where the whole city would be looking. What a dream! But a remote voice in the back of his thoughts told him that he didn't have time to find out what kind of show could attract such a crowd. That was not where he was supposed to be. He knew his gut hadn't been lying to him when he caught sight of a small flickering light coming from a discreet tent, around which the crowd seemed to be oddly absent. His eyes wouldn't budge away from that curious flame shining in the dark. He sensed its offer warm and loud. Adder hadn't even considered for one second that he may have been too hungry to think straight. He ignored all the warnings common sense would have taught him and marched straight into the tent. Dusk was still a ways off, but it may have well been a midnight inside. Adder combed the darkness desperately, startled by the sun-changing illumination's sweet, frightful clarity once more. What in the name of the Hatsa was I thinking? He pondered in his breathless silence as his mind started conjuring bandits, assassins, and monsters ready to tear his cape into pieces, fashion toothpicks out of his horns for having been so reckless. He struggled to regain his vision, fearing those foes that only lived in his mind, foes he wouldn't face today either. Bathing in the light of an orb that was filled with fire, shaded in ways that made no sense whatsoever, awaited a silhouette. A very recognizable silhouette.
Long enough.
Hello again! Of course, it was
Dad's
her.
not a living!
All of a sudden, Adder wished he'd found a bandit instead. At least he would have felt justified in terror that rooted his feet so firmly to the ground then. The boy remained immobile, eye fixed on the woman in front of him. Following the million glitters the ruby necklace hanging from her neck reflected all over, dragging his attention right back to the extravagant spread of finely woven silks, so carelessly tousled on her hair. Adderson was never much of an analytical boy in his day-to-day, but he became quite the sleuth when it came to attempting to pinpoint the line of work a dress revealed, and without revealing nearly a single thing, this one managed to have him at a complete loss. It was a pressing question he might have been too polite to ask, had the lump in his throat not taking care of that issue for him.
Don't just stand there. Take a seat.
I don't know. I've been sitting on my tail all day, and I got places to go, and I don't usually share tents with ladies, and...
Judging by her glare, she wasn't going to take no for an answer.
What am I saying? It'd have been mighty ugly of me to reject an invitation.
Adder did as asked and sat down on one of the many pillows laying around. Pretending to be crazy, he escaped begging the gods for mercy, breaking down and claiming that he wasn't, in fact, a horn-eater. That was just a mistake, and he shouldn't be there. Adder's mind was bustling with ways of getting out of that situation. So, of course, whenever his mind was busy, his mouth was free to speak as it pleased. He spoke with a voice more akin to that of a fawn whose antlers are just beginning to sprout than of a fully grown deer. Adder, nice place.
I'm Anderson, son of Gerfath, the buck who farms the highest hill in my village, Ravina Olis. So, here and there, just about everywhere, folks know me as Adder, of the upper field.
That's nice.
Ain't it? It better be, 'cause it's a lie, ma'am. They call me Long Neck Short Horns, or Adder Shovel Hands, or sometimes even Adder Shoe Face.
A mocking chuckle stabbed at his heart, feeling even more self-conscious than he thought he was capable of. He held on to his hooves and fixed his gaze on the ground, screaming inside as his face burned.
So it wasn't the contusion after all, huh? You're just like that.
Like what now?
Funny.
Aw, you're scoring points at her, buddy.
Funny? Me? Not one bit, man. I ain't got a funny bone in my body. Doc and I ain't ever seen worse jokes than Adder scenes. Hold up. Didn't that sound like a poem just now? Well, darn. A poem ain't nothing but a dull song, Mr. Bard always says so. I'd hate to bore fine lady such as yourself, so I better get...
Bore me? Please. With hands like those, you wouldn't look out of place in a traveling circus, or in some lord's court, if you're any good at juggling. In fact, I know a certain gazelle in dire need of entertainment. What do you say? One word from Jacif, and you will be working in a palace tonight.
Adder couldn't quite figure out if that was meant to be an insult or a compliment, but he was quick to decide that it was better to work for someone that didn't talk than for someone that talked about herself in third person.
I think I'm gonna pass for now, but I'll holler at you next time I'm fresh out of pride, ma'am.
A deep silence filled the tent. Adder cursed his luck and his good manners. He wanted to run away and hide, fearing that otherwise he'd commit a big mistake. The kind of mistake that would get him called a horn-eater for the rest of his life.
Well then, it was sure nice to see you again, but...
Would you like to know your fortune?
Adder turned on his heel, desperate to find out if her offer was indeed true. There's nothing that betrayed a lie in her words nor in her eyes.
You're one of those gazelle fortune tellers? For real?
Let's just say they look rather different back in
Well,
Adder's
slap
town.
my head and call me silly. I got you pegged all wrong, man. Darn right I'd love to hear it. Oh, hold up. I lost my bag of coins. I ain't got a single Doro on me, so...
Something fell onto the ground right beside
My
Adder's
bag?
foot.
You dropped it right after you crashed the first time. I meant to give it back, but since you were so bent on running through that wall...
You didn't steal from it, did you?
Oh no.
Steal what? It's just filled with rivets.
Aha! That means you opened it!
So much for wanting to see you again. That was all. You can go now if you want.
Punch to the gut would have hurt Adder infinitely less than her words. What am I doing? He thought to himself, biting the inside of his cheek. No mere thief would have returned his bag, and sad so that was, no other person had ever gone so far for him. As he sat down once more, looking at the finely yet peculiar dressed woman in front of him, with a mix of embarrassment, naivety, and just plain fear.
I don't suppose you accept Rivets as payment.
That would depend on what you're paying for.
Oh, whoa!
Getting my fortune told?
Just keep them.
Jesus Christ, how badly does she want to sleep with this guy? Like, what the hell? The thief rested her arms over the crystal orb, leaning closer to
Oh,
Adder.
right! Can you look into the ball thing and tell me how my ma and pa are doing? Did any of my little bros get married yet?
That's cute. But it's a reading glass, not a magic mirror.
Right. How about the weather? Can you give them good harvests?
Take your prayers to the temple.
Oh, darn, that won't do either. Alrighty then, how about me? What do you see in this buck's future?
Your future? Why would you want to know anything about that? Life would be boring if you knew what waits around every corner. I'll read your past and justify your present.
But I already know those things.
I don't.
Holy sh! Adder was quite set on asking what she meant, but his brain shut down operations completely as the girl also casually decided to shuffle closer to him. A little lighter now around the shoulders without the cape weighing her down.
For example, we could talk about why you did what you did for me then, and figure out what I could do to return the favor now.
Jesus Christ. Her blue eyes spoke like an insinuating whisper. Her fingers walked all over the cobblestone ground headed towards Adder's own hand as her face got ever so close. Holy sh...
I gotta insist, ma'am, that you definitely got the wrong bucket. But even if I ever did anything nice for you in my life, a simple thanks is more than enough payment.
I guess you could use a reminder too.
Zissare made no attempt to conceal her disappointment, much like no one ever made any attempt to explain to her what coming on too strong means. That is a really good written line right there. With apparent tedium, she grabbed the crystal orb and put it right between her face and Adam's. This time, she had no more pretensions than merely watching him.
Oh fire, tell me the secrets in the... Yada yada, stuff in Bazaktet. I don't feel like switching languages now.
Her complete lack of freshness made Adder feel for once at ease after all. What would he do if he was indeed in front of a Sephi, one of those heinous barren wizards from far back in time? Cry? Beg? Try to escape? Wait, those were things he'd already thought of doing. As Adder was considering the subtle differences in the fears he felt when talking to a girl and imagining being burnt to a crisp by a witch, she watched him. And she kept watching. Then she watched some more. Gazelle lifted her head from behind the glass as she squinted her eyes into fine lines. Whatever she was looking for, she couldn't find, but she still ducked behind the orb once more, hoping to reach some kind of conclusion. Focused with such intensity that her eyebrows could have split her forehead in two, and she wouldn't have noticed. Jasif pressed her mouth to one side, blew her nose, and opened her eyes so wide at him that Ada couldn't help but laugh.
It's easier with two.
She mumbled the last part to herself, but I was sure that she said eyes.
Oh, what's that? You ain't never done it with a one-eyed deer before?
Ada pressed his lips together like he wanted to make them disappear. Jasif merely rose an eyebrow. His accidental innuendo made him begin shaking from horns to hooves once more.
Screw this.
She pushed the orb away with the exasperated sigh. Before Ada knew what was going on, his face was in her hands, and her face right in front of his.
I need to find out if it was you after all. Stay still.
A drum beat in his ears. That was Ada's heartbeat as she stared at him so intently. There was a lump in his throat. It is best not to tremble. His eyes began feeling heavy, though. He tried to hold her gaze. She was muttering something, words about his past, but her voice became obscured by the noise of the bells, the crackling of fire, the sound of her own eyelashes batting against each other.
It's really too sodding late to be dealing with pests like you. And yet, here we are, Wasting my time and yours.
Hey, what's that supposed to...
Adder's complaint vanished at spear point. 2 guards replaced the gazelle, one old and complacent, and one young and eager, inches away from snapping his nose.
Just who do you think you are?
Well, I think you will get the answer to that question next time. We are at time, which means I gotta save right here. So yeah, interesting. Holy crap! The sexual tension is so fucking. Oh my god, she just. It's so freaking weird. Like, she's doing anything she can to get him to tell her that. I don't even know, but it's awkward as hell to watch sometimes. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Please have a like, comment, and subscribe to BronyTime for more content, especially more of the Hayseed Knight. Also, make sure to share this video far and wide so we can get more eyes on this brand new series. And I will see you all next time.